22, 1925. There were few opportunities afforded to him as a black man. When World War II broke out in Europe, Evers joined the army, fighting alongside white soldiers from around the world.
It was in Europe as a young man that he came to realize how restrictive Jim Crow segregation was in the South and in his home state of Mississippi.
Upon returning home from the war, Evers took advantage of the GI Bill to attend Alcorn College in Mississippi. While majoring in business administration, Evers took time out of his studies to woo fellow undergrad Merle Beasley. After a year-long courtship, the pair married and started a family in Mississippi that would eventually include 3 children. Inspired by the monumental Brown versus Board of Education decision, Evers quit his stable job as an insurance salesman to put his talents to work for the civil rights movement. Although his efforts to integrate the University of Mississippi Law School failed when they did not admit him, the NAACP took notice of the ambitious Evers and appointed him their first field secretary.
This is a man who for 8 or 9 years organized in a state where civil rights workers would disappear. To be a member of the NAACP and to be the front person of that organization in the state was a remarkably courageous act.
Evers quickly settled into a job of shaking up the establishment. Focusing on crimes against blacks, he set up boycotts against white-owned businesses that practiced discrimination and helped investigate acts of violence, such as the Emmett Till lynching, where a 14-year-old black boy was lynched for just talking to a white woman.
Meg Evers was the first field secretary for the Mississippi NAACP. So Meg's role was to come in and to organize all 82 counties in the state of Mississippi, setting up NAACP chapters, getting people registered to vote, taking complaints of what people were telling him that was happening to people in the state. Race relation at that time was not good. And after he witnessed the lynching of his father's friend, he was hurt, of course. He could not understand why it was that way. He enlisted when he was 16, and he served his country. And he said, as he traveled about, he said, it didn't matter about the color of my skin until I came back home to Mississippi. On his 21st birthday, he and a group of other veterans tried to register to vote. And he said they were turned around about men with shotguns. So Medgar at that point began documenting what people were telling him. And the NAACP asked him if he would become field secretary. Medgar was going outside of Mississippi, raising monies and talking to people how it was here. So the change was coming, and those who were against what was happening could see it. And people were saying, Medgar Evers, your days are numbered, because he had rallied the young people. And he was making people aware of what your rights are for simply being a citizen of this country.
Long before Barack Obama rallied a nation for change, Medgar Evers was willing to risk his life for it. In the segregated South during the 50s and 60s, his wife, Merle, knew her husband's dreams for equality were dangerous.
Medgar was unusual in the sense that he was so committed to justice and equality and was willing to pay the price, knowing full well that at that particular time, he was putting his life on the line. The fire hoses and the dogs biting us. When I look back, I see and I feel the pain and the suffering.
It was an ugly chapter in our nation's history. A time when African Americans were beaten, lynched, and killed because of the color of their skin.
I wish they'd kill them all.
Medgar Evers struggled to abolish laws that oppressed blacks As a leader in the NAACP, he knew the real power was in the vote.
We're not just interested in voting so that conditions will be improved for Negroes. We want conditions improved for everybody.
Getting people registered to vote was a big part of his life.
A major, major part of his effort. The power was in the vote. The power was elusive because of the fear that people had.
I've had a number of threatening calls, people calling me saying that they were going to kill me, saying that they were going to blow my home up, and saying that I only had a few hours to live.
It sounds like he almost knew.
He did.
On June 12, 1963, a young Merle Evers and her 3 children were inside the family home in Jackson, Mississippi.
I recall the kids saying, "Here comes Daddy, here comes Daddy."
The children knew the sound of Daddy's car.
And they pulled in the driveway behind my car. Wham.
Medgar Evers was shot in cold blood by a white supremacist in the driveway of his home. He was just 37 years old. It would take another 30 years to bring his killer to justice. What do you remember about the day Medgar was assassinated?
How he kissed the children, how he kissed me, how he walked out of the door, got in the car, came back in, and embraced us all again.
At that moment, Merle went from wife to widow, and her life changed forever. She took up her husband's cause for change and became the first woman to lead the NAACP.
Mr. Medgar Evers from Jackson, he's the state field secretary for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Mr. Medgar Evers.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDo. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very good to see the number of persons out here tonight that are, and certainly this indicates that we are ready for freedom and we're ready to march for it. I just want to say to you here tonight that the reason I'm up here is because you have given us inspiration in Jackson. And we're going to go back to Jackson, South Mississippi, and all over Mississippi and fight for freedom as you're fighting for it here in Greenwood. All we want you to do is keep going with this fight for freedom. And as we stick together here, as you feel the pains of dogs here in Greenwood, we'll feel them in Jackson. And if we feel them in Jackson, you feel them here. And when we get this unity, ladies and gentlemen, nothing can stop us. We're going to win this fight for freedom. Thank you very much.